Welcome to the Hermitcraft recap. My name is Pixelriffs, our writer is LoyXP. Captions on this video were provided by Liara, and so can you. Can what? Hermitcraft. Thanks to this video by Azumavoid, where he goes through the full list of various modifications the group is using for the Hermitcraft server, as running this large of a world takes the full range of management tools, from data packs to server mods to a couple of very tired admins. We won't be getting into the weeds of it here, especially since Azuma has already gotten in there and has a video for your viewing pleasure. Check it out even if you don't actually play multiplayer, since a few things like shulker box viewing and expanded armor stand manipulation should come in handy even for the solo enthusiasts.
And I think it's a big improvement over the default way it works.
And for those of us not making their own one, let's take a look at all the events and mishaps that occurred on the Hermitcraft server this week. Starting with Joel Smallish Beans, who has been allowed the luxury of shaders and is not afraid to use it. Along with a sun-enabled tour of his base, Joel's video for the week features a previously on Hermitcraft intro packed with things that were never on Hermitcraft, previously or otherwise.
Dare you speak to me like that, Darren, after what you did?
Guys, I know I've been gone a while, but I don't remember any of this.
But you'll have to forgive him, he sure had plenty of time to think of this stuff in the 4 hours it took his redstone sorting system to rearrange all of his earthly possessions in a sensible order. No, that's not the time it took to actually build the automated chest array. That was all done before the timer. And Jevin sure didn't help with his gift of multiple stacks of rainbow-coloured concrete powder.
So much concrete powder. Thank you, Jevin. Oh, all the concrete powder. Perfect. This is going to be great for helping with my new storage system. Thank you, Jevin. That's very kind.
Still, having his blocks in a row should help in the long term if Joel ever wishes to finish the building to actually cover up the sorting machine, much as it would get in the way of arriving to it through the ceiling. Thankfully, the Ravager Rush minigame is still here to offset the 4 hours of waiting, and the scoreboard for it is awfully empty between Hungry Hermit's opening and the whole Christmas New Year's exodus. So you can count on Joel to once again establish himself as the top frog.
Look at that score. That was my first attempt, guys. My first attempt, and I did a 186. I barely played Minecraft in like 3 months.
In the notion of Minecraft projects taking literal hours from our one human life, Jevin has now spent 14 hours building up a mountain.
Hope you guys enjoyed that time lapse. All of that work we did in creative mode has now been built on the server. It took a while, 14 hours and 17 minutes of total build time. Now that we have this finished, it's kind of go time to start the castle. I'm a little nervous.
The hill to cliff timer would actually be even longer if not for generous stone donations from Joe Hills, since for one reason or another, Jevin decided that the land master serve as a base for his future castle should not be at all hollow. So instead of much cheaper wireframe over the already existing surface, we're dealing with a slab of rock, occasionally covered up by the grass.
When I started, I got some stone from Joe, so thank you so much to Joe for all of his extra support. Times used, I'm at 103,000 stone placed. So half of that pretty much went to this project alone.
He won't be relying on Holmdale stone for much longer, however, as his sky array of farms welcomes a stone generator, hooked up to an autocrafter, hooked up to a mossificator, hooked up to a smelter. The goal is to get all of the stone brick variants by just holding left click with the Silk Touch pickaxe. This way, the one limit in building his castle is developing a design he really likes, and probably also deep slate.
I think that a castle is good if it has like a lot of turrets and it's got a lot of features you can look around and see, right?
While Jevin works to fill things in, XP Crafted has now siphoned out all the water from the latest expansion to his base, which he's happy to showcase to Pearlescent Moon in exchange for her borrowing his face.
You get to be part of a cool project.
I mean, I guess. Yeah.
Nice. Thank
Fine.
you. You got a bed somewhere?
The second half of the step pyramid completed, he also time-lapses his way to a decorative ring around the edges of the drain cylinder, much to the joy of the local dancing squid population. The one major hitch arrives when he tries to install an iron farm in a creative copy, and the golems are keen to spawn everywhere except inside the farm, meaning the whole thing will have to be slabbed and spawn-proofed, including the volcanic-looking stone supports he's built surrounding and below the structure, to be worth moving the villagers in at all.
The golems are dumb. They'll spawn pretty much anywhere, even though their head would be in the block. I don't ask. I follow the rules, and that's one of the rules.
Gemini Tay, by contrast, is bringing the ocean closer to her build as she develops a design for a leaping swordfish to hang mid-air in front of her observatory castle keep.
How close could I build a really big fish to your base before it would annoy you?
I will answer that by saying the number of gears and sprockets on the fish will allow that distance to become will allow that distance to become much closer.
It's helpful to see her process from a single bendy line in the creative world to a fully fledged build, much as it could use a few cogs, just like Tango Tech suggested.
We have a sailfish and a swordfish. And listen, I've taken some fantasy sort of liberties with these. I don't know if they're actually yellow and red, probably not.
Choosing not to bother his side of the hill, Gem instead departs for Impulse SV's base, catching him midway through a time-lapse and trying to see how many armor stands she can pose within the city block from him without Impulse noticing. The answer is so many she gets bored and hides in a composter instead.
What are you doing here?
I've put myself in the bin.
Why are you in the bin? You are not trash. Get out of there.
In his defense, Impulse was distracted by building a medical facility in the heart of Pixel Pulse Valley, presumably to monitor the pulse part. It's a project that required him to build an entire concrete converter. But fortunately, the lighting was sponsored by iJevin, who dropped off a gift basket of end rods, and false symmetry also left him enough concrete and other blocks to get the project started. All that was left was to time-lapse, pausing halfway to discover Gemini Tay had started yet another sword fighting ring in the building while it was under construction.
What are you talking about, sword fight? This is supposed to be a hospital. Well, I guess if you're going to have a sword fight, I guess having it in the
Well, it's the
hospital
perfect
is
place
good
to
way.
do it, right?
Yeah. If anybody gets hurt, they can get immediate attention.
Bop and Go has become perhaps the city's greatest export at this point, and with Silverfish generating allays as the new meta for XP farms, Impulse sets up a compact Bop and Go vending machine inside Skizzleman's base.
But you can see I'm getting so much XP, it's taking a while to get to me. Hit me up for a tutorial, in case you don't know. HMU, hit me up. I wonder if he'll know what that means.
Skizz is delighted once he invokes the rights to a tutorial and Impulse shows him how the thing works. And finally, there's Joe Hills, who has also made room for vending machines, but not before making sure the carpet is realistically decorated with industrial cleaner and even more industrial cheese flavoring.
It's got that pale carpet. Yeah, that's what gamers want. Tell me this doesn't look like every gaming store you've ever been in.
Joe is of course working on the TCG card shop right next door to Ethos Arena, and Ethos swings by to check out the shop floor space that can be dedicated to buying starter and booster packs.
Taking a sip of my drink, I hope Etho doesn't say something too funny and I spit it all out. Hey Etho!
He also offers Joe backdoor access to the head storage portion of Ravager Rush, information which Joe passes on to Pearlescent Moon so she can continue to populate her ballroom with dancers. The orchestra pit of the secret Mace Arena also needs a proper set of musicians so they can play the violin while everyone else hits each other with the wind instruments.
Okay, so this is what the vibe of the ballroom is.
Kind of like a music box, got a ballerina thing going.
Mm-hmm.
I could just
It gets really
spin.
good when it gets into it.
Joe is reluctant to ask Pearl for help landscaping the TCG shop's front lawn, not because she's got a secret fight club, but simply because she's just finished doing Tango's Dino minigame opposite. So Zombie Cleo is drafted in as the contractor for that job when they aren't working on Skizz's Popo alter ego card.
Don't compare yourself to Tango. Don't compare yourself to Tango. It's like the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yes,
And there are people, like, honestly, compare yourself to me or Joe, and you'll feel so much
You know,
better.
I'm good at ice skating too. It's not just Tango who can ice skate, Cleo. Skiz should be intimidated by my ice skating skills as well.
Joe also introduces us to the King Joel card, which is a lovely shout out to Empires Season 1. But by the time these cards are ready for distribution in starter packs, Etho has set up a booster packing mechanism, and Joe has expanded the shop's selection into Pogs.
I did get a bunch of extra Ender Pearls when I was leveling up in the end, so we now have a selection of free Pogs for anyone to take as well. So hopefully the Hermits will notice that on their way out the door.
And that's about it for this week's recap. Our writer is Sloy XP, and my name is Pixel Riffs. Captions on this video were provided by Liara. Don't forget to leave a like while you're still here, and subscribe so you won't miss future recaps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.